problem with smoking is that it solves a problem it helped create. This is why nicotine is so addictive, explained through a simple mechanism of relief and repetition. Understanding how nicotine affects the brain and attention makes the rest of this pattern easier to see. The nicotine dopamine reward system, explained in plain terms, is a loop that reinforces the act because the body learns the relief. That's an uncomfortable thing to say. But if we want to understand it, we have to be honest. Smoking creates a temporary problem and offers an instant solution. Once your brain is used to nicotine, going without it makes you restless, irritable, and tense. But one drag, and almost instantly you feel better. Not because something was fixed, but because the discomfort nicotine created was briefly removed. And it's more than just physical addiction. Smoking helps people focus. It provides an excuse to take regular breaks. It suppresses appetite. It fills boredom. It makes bad moments feel less bad and good moments feel sharper. It's social. Smokers cluster together. And there is something deeply satisfying about putting something between your lips, one of the most sensitive parts of the body. So before talking about damage, it's worth understanding why nicotine feels so effective in the first place. A cigarette is dried tobacco leaves mixed with chemicals that make it burn slowly, deliver nicotine efficiently, and reduce the harshness of smoke. When you light it, you inhale a complex aerosol. About 95% of cigarette smoke consists of gases like carbon dioxide and water vapor. The remaining 5% are particles known as tar. And inside this tar is the key ingredient, nicotine. As you inhale, billions of particles pass through your mouth and throat, sticking to your tongue, trachea, and airways. Your lungs are built like enormous sponges. They are lined with tiny hair-like cells called cilia, coated in mucus. Their job is to trap dust, bacteria, and particles and move them out in a coordinated sweeping motion. Tar particles land in this mucus and turn it into a sticky brown substance. The cilia become paralyzed. The protective conveyor belt stops working. This allows smoke particles to travel deeper into the lungs, all the way to the alveoli. Alveoli are tiny air sacs where oxygen enters the blood and carbon dioxide leaves. Their walls are extremely thin, and this is where nicotine enters the bloodstream. Within seconds, nicotine reaches the brain, fast enough to feel almost immediate. If your brain had a control panel, nicotine would press many buttons at once. It triggers the release of epinephrine and cortisol, increasing heart rate and preparing the body for action. Dopamine is released in small but reliable bursts, reinforcing behavior. Beta endorphins reduce pain and stress. Nicotine both stimulates and calms at the same time. You feel more alert, more focused. Your attention narrows, your body relaxes. This combination feels good. Not euphoric, functional. But the brain is not passive. As soon as nicotine enters the system, the brain begins pushing back, trying to restore balance. That's fine as long as nicotine is present. Once it leaves the bloodstream, the compensatory response remains. Now the system is imbalanced. Focus feels harder. Irritability appears. Restlessness grows. The more often this cycle repeats, the stronger the brain's counterreaction becomes. This is why nicotine is so addictive. At first, it enhances how you feel. Later, you need it just to feel normal. And nicotine never arrives alone. Cigarette smoke contains thousands of chemicals: cadmium, lead, arsenic, hydrogen cyanide, nitrogen oxides, and carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide binds to hemoglobin, reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen. Your tissues are slowly starved. In the lungs, the cilia struggle. Some die, others stop moving. Alveoli are extremely delicate. Under constant chemical stress, some rupture, permanently, like tiny balloons popping. This damage cannot be repaired. Your body responds with emergency measures. Goblet cells produce excess mucus to trap particles. Breathing becomes harder, you cough. Immune cells called macrophages rush in to clean up tar particles. Smokers have far more of these cells because their lungs are constantly contaminated, but nicotine makes macrophages sluggish and ineffective. Worse, they release enzymes that dissolve lung tissue, creating microscopic wounds that heal as scar tissue. Scars in lungs are a serious problem if you enjoy breathing. The damage isn't limited to the lungs. Nicotine raises heart rate while ordering blood vessels throughout the body to constrict. At the same time, toxic chemicals cause tiny injuries inside vessel walls. These injuries heal with scar tissue. Scar tissue leaks proteins that promote blood clot formation, narrowing vessels even further. The heart must pump harder to force blood through this resistance. Blood pressure rises. The heart muscle thickens and weakens. Over time, fatty deposits accumulate inside scarred vessels until organs are slowly suffocated. Inside the skin, chemicals trigger enzymes that break down collagen, the protein responsible for elasticity and smoothness. Skin wrinkles earlier, it ages faster. The immune system suffers the most insidious damage. Throughout the body, it remains chronically activated, responding to constant micro-injuries. At the same time, nicotine suppresses its efficiency. The result is an immune system that damages healthy tissue while becoming worse at fighting real threats. Eventually, the long-term consequences emerge. Most long-term smokers develop a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So many alveoli are destroyed that breathing becomes permanently labored. Once COPD appears, it never improves. It only worsens. Then there is cancer. Smoking delivers at least 70 known carcinogens directly into the lungs. At the same time, it paralyzes immune mechanisms responsible for detecting and destroying cancer cells. This double effect is why cancer risk is so high. Ultimately, smoking is uniquely dangerous among legal behaviors. On average, smokers lose about 10 years of life. Some lose 5, others lose 25. There is no way to know which one you will be. But even more life is lost to chronic illness. Years spent breathing poorly, recovering slowly, living with reduced capacity. So why don't smokers simply stop? Smokers are often portrayed as undisciplined. That's deeply misleading. Nicotine is one of the most physically and psychologically addictive substances known. Physical withdrawal lasts only a few days. Psychological dependence can last decades. Nicotine binds to attention, stress relief, social cues, routines, and transitions. A break, a pause, a moment of pressure. Most people who smoke start as teenagers. The tobacco industry depends on this. Adult brains are far less likely to form lifelong nicotine dependence. Even today, around 1 billion people smoke. The trend is improving. In 2000, about 34% of adults smoked. By 2020, that number dropped to around 23%. Still, in 2023, smoking caused roughly 8 million deaths worldwide. The good news is that quitting works. People who stop smoking before age 35 on average do not die earlier than non-smokers. Even quitting later adds years to life. Damage can be slowed. Some functions recover. But the core mechanism remains important to understand. Smoking solves a temporary problem, but it creates permanent ones. This doesn't require moral judgment. It requires clarity. When a substance feels like function, seeing its mechanism changes how it's perceived. Nicotine is not just a stimulant, it is a regulator. Human behavior rarely emerges from free choice alone. It is shaped by the interaction of biology, habits, and environment. This nicotine-driven regulation is one of the forces shaping human behavior, often without conscious awareness. Subscribe and start understanding yourself and the world differently.